Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Bible Tidbits YouTube channel. Glad you joined us today for another update in my journey to learning biblical Hebrew. This is, I think, episode 8, something like that. So I've been doing every other week. Just kind of an update where I'm at. I'm doing a seminary class, and so that's kind of what's been guiding the series and guiding my study into Hebrew. And the goal is to go from nothing to hopefully proficient. And I feel like I'm starting to get semi proficient. Not fluent. I'm not devotionally reading my Hebrew Bible yet, but I can look at a Hebrew sentence and I might understand a good chunk of it. I kind of at least grasp the direction it's going, pick out a few words, maybe sometimes the whole sentence, depending on the sentence or the verse we're in. But we've been doing nothing but scripture for a little while now in the class. So that's been super encouraging to me. I think that was one of the most difficult things is at the beginning, it took us so long to actually get to working in verses. We were doing made up sentences, and that was just so difficult. I wanted to be in the scripture. And now we're far enough along. My knowledge is enough that I am in the scripture. So the primary thing we've been doing, so we've been deepening pronouns a little bit, and then we've been working on the words yesh and ain, some very important words in the Hebrew, just trying to more understand them fully in their context, I guess you could say, how they shift, how they change little bits depending on what's around them. And that's been helpful to kind of grasp those things deeper. And overall in the class, that's kind of an approach we've been taking a lot where there's something we did kind of basic surface level and we're just deepening it now later. So these two words, yesh and ain, for example, are words I learned like week 3, I want to say. And now we're here in week 13, 14, and we're coming back to those and just taking it a step further. And that's been a lot of things lately. But this is what our workbook exercises have been looking like a lot lately. Try to get to focus there for you. So you see there that the Hebrew verse is typed out right there in the chart. Then below each verse is the section to parse. And then there's a little blank section that you can write. And so what we've been doing for the workbook is I can go and do a really rough, like, what does this word mean? Right below the typed section. And then I can go parse out the specific words down below. And then in the blank space, I can write out my more full translation. And so you get an idea what that looks like there. And doing that has been so beneficial because these are actual that's actual scripture. That's a Bible verse. I've got the key to what verse it is on a different page, and I'll have the whole verse together so I can go through and read it several times, try to get the feel for it. Then I can go and work through it. And that has been super helpful. Yeah, this has been the workbook exercise. I've been doing these and having to turn it in. But what I've been doing personally for my study is I've been working through these. Okay, what is this word? How do I parse it? How does it relate to these other words? And just try to really rough translate it, then more fully translate it into a proper English translation. Look at my parsings and try to work almost back and forth in the text. And that's been my study tactic lately is just to work back and forth. Okay, so that word means this, that word means this. Okay, why is this word this way? Trying to remember those rules. Why is it changing here? Why is it doing this? And then I have the answer key, so I can go look in the answer key and say, okay, so here's what this is supposed to be. How did it get there? And try to reverse work to help me remember the rules, the processes, and how the language is working in each and every situation. Because there's a lot of rules in Hebrew. That's what I'm finding. Once you understand these rules, it comes very quickly, but there's a lot to understand, a lot to grasp and learn. I've been working through these. I'll do the workbooks and then I'll go back and review them and just try to review them several times to try to understand what's going on. What is the rules behind this? Why is it doing what it's doing? And then also trying to pick out the principles because these verses are picked because they in some way incorporate not every one of them, but almost every one of them, almost everyone incorporates what we've been learning recently into them. So learning about yesh and ain with some of the new rules. Right when we learned those words, every translation had those words in them. Every translation exercise. Well, now not every one of them has it, but if it does, it's probably using those new rules. So how is it those new rules affecting it and changing it? And that's really helped me to deepen my knowledge and have the more full understanding of it. And it's it's scripture. It's from the Bible. And so that makes it very helpful. I think it's helpful too for me being from the Bible is I've been reading the Bible for quite a while now, over and over and over. And so the language of the Bible is pretty familiar to me. And so sometimes it helps me to just knowing the Bible. There's a word, I can't quite remember what the word is. I'll just skip it, go to the next one. Then I start seeing the context, and it helps me to remember what that word is because I'm like, well, this is what's going on. And then I could kind of grasp, fill in the dots in the English, and then look back at the word and help me narrow down, where it could mean anything to, okay, it's meaning something like this. Um, so like for example, the word for sword, you know, he stabbed this person. What is that word? With, with it's with a sword, okay? You can kind of fill in the gaps with the context there and just knowing the Bible and being able to know the biblical context. So you see things going on. Okay, I know it's from this book of the Bible. I know this is going on. This is the words I have. And I can contextualize these verses, and it helps me to fill in those gaps. And then I can go look into the Hebrew and say, okay, why is this the fill in? How can I dig deeper? What rules are affecting this? How does this relate to the other words and the sentences? And really, really try to break it down. And that's been super helpful for me. There's been a lot of those charts in the class lately. So I've been able to dig deeper with those. And I want to say, if you are learning a language, even for Greek, there's some of the other charts we've been doing, by the way, filling those in. Some of them we are allowed to skip, so you can see I skipped some. But when you're learning a language, once you get to the point where you are learning, you're in the verses, you're in the scripture, or you're in just sentences, reverse work those. So you see what's going on. Why is that going on? What is happening here? And try to reverse work it to understand more fully what's going on and to kind of dig deeper into the rules, the principles, the concepts you've been learning. Try to understand those in light of the sentences going on. Parse the words. Parse them and understand, okay, well, this parsing does this. Okay, here's that in action right here. So I think that's super helpful. All my family is educators, and most of them early childhood, reading, kindergarten age. And so my wife's a kindergarten teacher, my mom's a kindergarten teacher, my mother in law works with reading kids. So I'm around that a lot. And they were in some classes recently and they were saying things, and I was reverse working the English language from what they were talking, some of the things they were learning in their class about teaching reading to kids. And it was really interesting. I was like, man, I'd almost like to take those classes because all of the categories they were speaking of are categories that I have in my mind from Hebrew and from Greek. And so being able to sit there with them and hear them speak of these things, I was able to reverse work some English, understand where I'm mispronouncing some things or why some things happen in English that I just intuitively grasped. So reverse working those, but reverse working the biblical languages has helped me do the same. And so I could start to instill those rules into my brain, get them stuck in there so that I can't skip them, and eventually it becomes intuitive. I remember in Greek, when I was taking Greek, when the genitive case became intuitive. I seen it, I immediately knew it was genitive, I immediately knew what it was doing, and it was just a quick, just read past it. And I was shocked the first time I did that. I was like, I know exactly what that word is, what it's doing, how it's performing in the sentence. And then seeing that come for other different forms, just intuitive knowledge. And so that's what I'm trying to do with Hebrew is get that intuitive knowledge by reverse working the sentences. So I work through them slowly, each little piece. Then I go and look at the final form and come back, and I'm just back and forth, back and forth. Okay, here's where we're ending. Okay, I have the answer key. I know where I'm ending the sentence. Okay, I see where I'm starting. How do we get there? Okay, let's take it back. It says this in English. How do we get this back into Hebrew? And that's been super helpful. I feel like I'm rambling at this point, trying to talk myself through part of this and understand more fully what I'm doing. But I hope this is helpful. So if you're learning a language, get to those sentences, go through, go back to them, and then study them. I have this stack of worksheets because that's what I'm studying for my next exam right now. I'm going through those because it's helping me to grasp the concepts more. And you need to grasp the concepts and understand them fully if you're going to retain the language. I've understood that for Greek, and I can already see how Hebrew is the exact same way. So get vocab. I'm still working on vocab. I still got my big old stack of cards. I'm going to spend some time in that this morning and get vocab, get the concepts, and just make it intuitive into your mind. So that's what I got for this week. Not a whole ton of new content to report because we're deepening certain concepts, but that's been my study lately. And I hope maybe that my study can help you, inspire you in some way to your own studies. So get out there, dig deep in the Bible, learn a language. I encourage you. It's doable. It's very doable. So I thank you all for joining me. I hope to see y'all next time.